When the sound of the waves came crashing in, my head was still buzzing. It wasn't until the person in my arms yelled Jason and broke free, jumping into the sea, that I realized I'd been reborn. I always knew Lisa couldn't swim, but she jumped in without a second thought, catching me off guard. The waves were churning and the sea wind was howling. Just minutes ago, I was struggling in this fierce sea too. Even though I swallowed mouthfuls of seawater and was submerged countless times, I never let go of Lisa. Yet, in her eyes, I didn't exist. Her arms were busy dragging the death-seeking Jason. Luckily, a big wave washed us to the shore, but the rocks were slippery from the recent rain. We were drained from struggling in the sea. Just as I thought to help Lisa up first, she suddenly pushed me underwater. She kicked me in the stomach and climbed ashore. She reached out her hand, and I thought she was going to pull me up. "Jason, quick, give me your hand. Step on him and I'll pull you up." Another wave hit, pulling me away from shore. Exhausted, my body began to sink. I foolishly held on to hope that she'd come to save me. But even as I vanished beneath the surface, I didn't catch a glimpse of her eyes. Thinking back, a chill ran down my spine. Fate gave me a second chance. This time, I'm living for myself. I was really naive in my past life, worrying about her safety and following her into the deep sea. Now, I watched numbly as the two struggled in the water. I had called for help minutes ago. Their fate was no longer in my hands. Fate, unfair and fair, is odd. They were eventually rescued. I saw the news while packing at home. To show my devotion back then, I put Lisa's name on the house deed. Since we're divorcing, I don't want any more ties with her. I stood at the door, looking inside while holding my suitcase. The house was decorated to her taste, the wardrobe mostly filled with her clothes, and the vanity crowded with expensive cosmetics. I remembered when we first got together, and she said she liked a designer bag. I secretly checked the price. It was quite costly at around 20,000 yuan. That was 2 or 3 months' worth of my intern salary. So, I worked days at the office and delivered food at night. I saved enough to buy it for her by her birthday. Later, I found out she sold the bag secretly and used the money to buy Jason a pair of limited edition sneakers. I smirked to myself, slipped into my newly bought shoes, and took out the trash. A nearby old lady collecting recyclables murmured, "Didn't expect young folks to wear shoes till they're this worn out before tossing them." I returned home with my luggage. Even though they don't watch much news, my folks knew what had happened. When I got back, they cautiously tried to figure out what I was thinking. My parents were the ones who opposed the idea of me marrying Lisa the most in my past life. No parent would want their only son to marry a woman with another man always around. I had countless battles with them over it, neither side willing to yield. I threatened them with my own life before they gave in. Seeing their worried looks, I calmly said, "I'm getting a divorce." They were stunned at first, then looked relieved. "It's good to see you've thought it through." But I couldn't shake the sadness. They've aged so much, yet I'm only now realizing the pain I caused them. My father's 20-centimeter scar on his arm is a reminder of when he tried saving me. I was accused of being the third wheel in Lisa and Jason's relationship. My parents, moral-driven educators, couldn't stand the gossip. They called me home, demanding I end the engagement. But I refused. I had just vowed to Lisa I'd marry her. How would she see me if I backed out now? The confrontation ended badly, and I climbed onto the window ledge in anger. I didn't intend to jump, just wanted to scare them. But the ledge was narrow and I slipped. My father rushed over, grabbing me. His arm scraped against the window's edge, bleeding heavily. They never forced me again after that. In hindsight, if my past life had ended as it did, the only ones left suffering would have been my parents. And I, loving someone who didn't love me, hurting those who loved me the most. This time, I want to make amends. How could I lose it? In the kitchen, my parents were in a frenzy. I clearly remember buying soy sauce. It seems they couldn't find it. "Mom, don't worry. I'll borrow some from a neighbor," I said as I headed out. Mom seemed like she wanted to say more, probably to remind me to be polite or something. I knocked on the door across from us. "Hi, ma'am. I'm your neighbor. Could I borrow some soy sauce?" Before I even finished, the door slammed shut. I asked a few others but got the same response. One family shook their heads as soon as they knew I was there for soy sauce and shut the door. Each time it was like being shunned, viewed like a pariah. I realized it might be due to the third-party rumor. Now with this news, it solidified the accusations against me. The nearby families, single-parent homes troubled by affairs, naturally looked down on people like that. So I returned empty-handed. Hearing the door close, Mom peeked out from the kitchen. Seeing me without soy sauce, she went back in, trying to casually offer up the last dish. "Peter, wash up and come eat. Let's see if this dish tastes okay without soy sauce." At the table, my parents exchanged knowing looks. For how long? Silence followed. I asked, "How long have they been avoiding us?" "Since you got married." She pretended not to care, acting indifferent. But I knew Mom had pride. She cared too much about what others thought. This embarrassment was enough to make her hold her head low, even though it wasn't real. "Mom, Dad, I've been so thoughtless. I'm truly sorry." I looked down, afraid to meet their eyes. I messed up in my past life, focusing solely on giving Lisa a better life and neglecting my own parents. I stubbornly made choices I thought were right, letting them face the cold stares and comments. Honestly, it's no surprise they felt that way. Ever since I met Lisa, Jason was always by her side. They grew up together, and they were each other's first love. Before she got together with me, they were almost ready to get married. But then life took a turn. Jason's parents both died in a car accident that year, and a few months later he was laid off. Soon after, Jason couldn't handle the tragedies and fell into severe depression. The therapist said he had almost no will to live and needed constant care. Lisa, who was also a therapist, became Jason's main doctor, dedicating all her time to him. She even moved in with him. And by then, Lisa had already accepted my confession. When I confronted her, asking questions, she kept her head down, busy with Jason's charts. She just said, "Peter, don't be unreasonable. Jason is my patient. It's my job to heal him." When we were talking about marriage, every time we planned a meeting with the family, something came up with Jason. Eventually, she even brought him with her. While eating at my place, she left him in the car, chatting on video call. Physically, she was present, but she wasn't really there. Rumors spread in the neighborhood, but I brushed them off, not realizing how it hurt and worried my parents. Now, looking back, it's clear why Lisa left me in a heartbeat when it mattered. The next day, I mailed the divorce papers to Lisa. It was a beautiful day, and my mood lifted a bit. I decided to take my parents out for a walk. They dressed up nicely, helping each other with smiles. But as we stepped out, we saw 7 or 8 bags of trash. Of course, it was the handiwork of our so-called neighbors. "Peter, let's just not go. We've got enough clothes." My mom deflated suddenly. "You both go inside, watch some TV, and I'll handle this," my dad said, rolling up his sleeves. Seeing how deftly he handled the trash, I realized it wasn't the first time. They planned to endure it again. But I wasn't about to let it slide. Being reborn, I had the courage to face things. I grabbed the trash from him, got out my phone, opened the surveillance app, and matched the trash bags to the video footage, knocking on each neighbor's door. "Hey, this is your trash. We're not responsible for taking it out." The culprits blushed, looking down as they took back their garbage. They hadn't expected me to stand up. Minutes later, everyone had their own trash back. Paper tigers, that's what they were. Once the oppressed decide to fight back, the bullies' masks of righteousness shatter. That was the first change I made since being reborn. Happily, I linked arms with my parents and stepped out. We reached the park where we usually went for exercise. It had been a while since they'd been out, and they seemed a little awkward. To help them get comfortable, I led them to a bench. Around us, kids played, the elderly exercised, and families picnicked on the grass. The sun was warm and soothing. Everything felt peaceful. Then, across from us, an old lady sat down, pushing a baby stroller. She picked up the crying baby and comforted him. My mom suddenly sighed. "If the little one was here, he'd be about this age," she said, realizing she'd said something she shouldn't have. Before, I thought I'd moved on. but the memories still hurt. Lisa had just gotten pregnant back then, and her health wasn't great. Her pulse was weak from the start. She spent day and night taking care of Jason, managing his mood swings, taking him for walks. I'd seen Jason at his worst, either agitated or lifeless. Doctors said she needed rest, and we argued about it a lot. Not long after, she collapsed in front of me, blood staining the ground. When she woke, I told her about losing the baby, but she asked, "How's Jason?" The baby on the other side finally stopped crying, blinking as he observed everything. I vividly remembered the day Lisa excitedly ran into my arms, whispering that I was going to be a dad. I spun her around, thrilled. The older generation always said they wanted grandkids. They probably mourned the child that never came, too. During those days with my parents, Lisa sent me a lot of messages wanting to talk. I ignored them. I decided on the divorce. Besides the paperwork, I didn't think there was anything more to discuss. After breakfast one day, Lisa messaged again, "I agree to the divorce. Let's meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow." I put my phone down, feeling at ease. I served myself another bowl of porridge. The next day, Lisa arrived before me and waited at the entrance. She came alone by the looks of it. After wrapping up the paperwork, I was about to leave when Lisa stopped me. "Peter, can we talk?" I didn't say anything, which she took as a yes. Lisa found a quiet corner. "If I told you I still love you, would you believe me?" "It doesn't matter to me, Lisa." Her phone alarm kept going off mid-conversation. I asked why she set so many alarms. She said that after that incident of nearly drowning, she was lucky to be saved. But the lack of oxygen affected her brain, messing with her memory. She would forget things quickly, so she needed multiple reminders. After all that, my life truly began. I found a new job. My previous job was chosen because it was close to where Lisa lived. Now, I found work that I genuinely loved. I'm living the life I imagined when I was younger. A job I'm passionate about, a pet cat or dog, and taking my parents on trips every 6 months. This year we plan to see the snow up north. My parents, amazed by the snow, took lots of pics. They eagerly called me over, but I waved them off. I hate the cold, so I stayed indoors where it's warm. Suddenly, a glass broke in the restaurant. I turned and saw a boy refusing medicine from a girl, smashing the glass near him. The girl was patiently coaxing him. When the steam in the room cleared, I realized it was Lisa and Jason. Jason seemed better than before, not as exhausted, though still refusing his meds. When he wouldn't take them, Lisa just wiped his hands and readied for dinner. Later, Lisa seemed to notice me. I looked away and left. In the next moment, I got a message from her. "Peter, was that you just now?" I replied, "What? I just got home." Putting my phone away, I took my parents to the next spot. Life is always on the move. You might get lucky, and someone might walk alongside you for a bit, but no one waits in one place. Our job is to hopefully move on to the next destination. After the trip, I focused more on work. The market wasn't great, and lots of places were cutting jobs. I had to work extra hard to stand out. At the company, many young graduates, more qualified than me, were hired, pushing me forward. My parents noticed my ambition and silently supported me. By year-end, I got promoted and a raise for my hard work. I even won the top prize at the annual party, a free 7-day trip to Europe, plus a guest. That's where I met my girlfriend, Lucy. I was busy with work stuff, so my parents were on their own. We got separated in the crowd, and they didn't speak the language to communicate their location. After a while, our GPS coordinates got closer, but I still couldn't see them. She was the one who reunited us. That's how we exchanged numbers. After chatting, we discovered we had so much in common and mutual feelings. Even more coincidentally, we lived in the same city. Soon after, I mustered the courage to share my feelings. Turns out, both Lisa and I have moved on. I'm really happy with my life now. Running into Lisa again was at a college friend's wedding. I was late, so by the time I got there, almost everyone was seated. Lisa was with old friends, but mostly just sat quietly, sometimes chiming in. I barely recognized the person on her left. The groom said it was Coco. Back in college, Coco was this unnoticed, dark-haired girl. But now she's slim and fair, looking like she just graduated. The groom mentioned she's now a massive social media influencer with millions of followers and a rich, handsome husband. Honeymoon plans on the way. Coco excitedly talked about skincare and fashion, with the girls joining the conversation. When asked about a new skincare find, Lisa just smiled awkwardly, nervously fidgeting with her clothes. In college, Lisa was always top of her class and juggled both the student council and class president roles. She was full of energy, optimism, and her simple jeans and tees radiated a natural beauty. Her eloquence and gentle nature made her the campus darling for many guys. Senior year, everyone thought she'd continue on to a better university for further studies. But she chose to pursue psychology, giving up a coveted grad school spot. After graduation, she landed a top job at a prestigious hospital. She was fearless, and I admired her so much. She made things look easy, but now she seemed tired, and her plain clothing made her stand out among people like Coco. In college, I imagined many reunion scenarios, and in each, she was always at the center. Now, everyone can be the main character, but she can't anymore. Peter, you sly dog. It's only been a couple of years since you graduated, and now you're at the top of the company. My college buddy swaggered over, holding his drink. I gave a slight nod and clinked glasses with him. Stop teasing me. I heard you're starting a business with some folks. You'll be the one I rely on then. Sure, count on it. He guided me to the center of the crowd. When reminiscing about the past, someone asked, "What about the class president? I haven't seen her." Someone pointed her out. Wow, I never thought. The class president, who everyone thought highly of, turned out to be someone obsessed with romance, held back by her boyfriend with depression. Before, Lisa always said she was too busy. That's why we didn't have a wedding. Plus, she didn't want Jason to know we were married, so not many people knew. We didn't chat much about Lisa, nor did anyone seem to care. Felt like a passing remark. A sigh, and then it was forgotten. Just then, something happened with Lisa. Turns out Coco brought up an old news story, asking her when she planned to get married. Lisa gave an awkward smile. We're just friends. After dinner, my buddy quietly asked me, Peter, didn't you say you were going to pursue Lisa? Couldn't win her over? That was ages ago. I can barely remember. I poured him another drink. Drink up, you talkative devil. Yeah, I've long forgotten those days. Are they worth remembering? Nope. It just comes back each time I think of jumping into the sea, ripping my heart again and again, reminding me I'm not worth it. I thought after that day, Lisa and I wouldn't cross paths again. Who would have thought I'd run into her and Jason just days after the reunion? That day, Lucy and I were buying a cake, when Jason had a meltdown in the street, drawing everyone's attention. In just a few days, Lisa seemed much more worn out, looking really low on energy. She had a sickly yellow complexion, her hair thrown up carelessly, like an old lady. If you find me annoying, just leave. I don't need your pity. Jason splashed water on Lisa as he spoke. It's all because of you. If it weren't for you, I'd be free by now. Jason broke down crying again. Why did you save me that day? Just let me die. I wouldn't be suffering like this if I died. He shook Lisa frantically. Today, Jason looked much worse than that day during the trip. Onlookers just watched, not stepping in. Seems like staying out of others' affairs is the smart way to go. Lisa calmly took out a tissue to wipe herself. Her patience from that day seemed gone. If you don't take the medicine, fine, I won't force you anymore. She picked up the plastic bottle, tossed it in the trash, and watched Jason's outburst indifferently. Lucy noticed my distant stare. She looked over and asked me, "What are you looking at?" I shook my head. Nothing. Later, when my cake was ready, Lisa went off in the opposite direction with Jason. Today's Mom's birthday, and I left work early. As soon as I got home, I saw them seeing off guests after guests. Some faces I knew, like the neighbors from upstairs, but a few new faces I couldn't place. I greeted them awkwardly while holding the cake. Some of the older ladies squeezed in compliments. You're Peter, right? Quite the charmer. Achieving so much at a young age. Your future's bright. Can't believe you've grown this big. I used to hold you when you were little. And this lovely lady must be your girlfriend. Such pretty eyes. I greeted them all, clueless. After they left and we were inside, I asked Mom why they were here. They heard it was my birthday, so they came to celebrate. I thought to myself, why would people who usually avoid us like the plague suddenly act so kind and bring gifts? But then Mom explained, an aunt's granddaughter recently interviewed at your company, and she asked me to ask you to look out for her. I knew it. No one shows up without an agenda. Surprised our home was so busy today. Seeing they came to celebrate, I felt bad turning them away. Don't worry, I didn't promise anything. I'll return the gifts some other time and clarify. Seeing Mom so happy today, I didn't want to spoil her mood. I took out my cake and wished her happy birthday. But I couldn't picture those kind and friendly relatives who've previously had such disdain for us. Turns out, like the book says, bloom and the breeze will come. I got a deeper understanding of who I used to be. When I fell for Lisa, I never hoped to be with her. She was dazzling back then, and I was just plain. So from the start, I looked up to her. Not just admiration, but appreciation. Even when we were together, she stood out and I felt more insecure. I always complied with what she wanted, thinking she deserved everything, even better than what I could offer. So, I always felt I wasn't giving enough. Whenever she softened, I'd let my guard down. Someone as exceptional as her, willing to apologize to me, who was I to keep a distance? But the more it went on, the less I dared to argue. In the end, I kept lowering my standards, making myself smaller. I should have known long ago that it wasn't a healthy relationship. I should have walked away. Now, my mindset has changed. I know I deserve better. There's nothing wrong with me compared to anyone else. Eventually, I'll meet the right person. Someone who'll appreciate me and recognize me, just as I do for her. Then I met Lucy. She helped me see myself differently and taught me how to love and be loved. With that thought, I tightened my grip on Lucy's hand. She paused her chatting and asked me what was up. I said, I want to marry you. And I really meant it, so I planned a proposal. On the day of the proposal, it was just the two of us. Because she once said that she'd be embarrassed to death if I proposed in front of many people. I had the ring and I got on my knee. Lucy, you know my past. Yet will you still marry me? She shed tears of emotion and gave me a resolute answer. I will. I placed the ring on her finger, and we hugged tightly. She wrapped her arms around my neck and softly whispered in my ear. I know you don't like recalling your past, and I don't think it's a big deal. To someone who loves you like I do, I only feel sorry for you. And yes, I will marry you. Tears of emotion fell from my eyes too, and I took her face in my hands and kissed her deeply. With those two simple words, I will, she healed my old scars. And I promised to love her like my life in the days to come. Later, we had a big wedding in Europe, where I gave her a long-prepared gift. I signed a contract stating that if we divorced, all my assets would belong to Lucy. I know she sometimes feels insecure, so I'll do my best to show her that I'll never leave her. I never expected to see Lisa again, until one day Lucy and I were out shopping for our new place. Lucy was upstairs at her yoga class, and I was downstairs shopping. Someone called out to me from behind. It was Lisa's mom. Peter, I couldn't believe it was you. I thought I was seeing things. I nodded in greeting and went to leave. Peter, wait, I'd like to talk for a moment. She pulled me aside. I know Lisa did you wrong, and I want to apologize on her behalf. We advised her against being with Jason. That guy was troublesome from the start, and his personality's just plain weird. She gave up so much for him, left great opportunities. In trying to save him, she's suffering from the after effects with a failing memory. I have to join her in the simplest tasks now. She sighed. Now she's cut ties with him. Are you still alone? I smiled and shook my head. I recently married my love. Right then, Lisa approached and quietly said, Congratulations on getting married. Then she took her mom's hand and walked away quickly. She no longer carried medications and a water bottle, but instead had a bag I once gave her. Though I remember she sold that bag to buy Jason sneakers. Looking at her now, she seemed nothing like the person from my memory. Maybe she's changed, or maybe she no longer holds that special place in my mind. When someone loses the lens you've placed on them, they become like everyone else. Yet the look in her eyes seemed different. Not so much regret as someone who's tasted sweetness for a lifetime and is back to face this life. With shopping bags in hand, Lucy's class wasn't over yet, so I wandered the mall. I stopped by Lucy's favorite brand and got her the latest bag, and picked up a few summer lipsticks. Our honeymoon plans are set for a trip to Sonia. Coming out, I found Lisa waiting for me. "Can we talk?" she asked. Having nothing better to do, I agreed. We found a spot to sit. "Peter, I didn't expect you to agree to sit and talk." I gave a slight smile. She pulled out a small notebook, apologized with a smile. My memory's really bad now, so I wrote down what I wanted to say. "Peter, do you still hate me?" she asked. "No. No stranger has that power over my emotions." She forced a smile. "I always wonder if I hadn't jumped into the sea that day, would things have been different? Let the past be. We can't change it, right?" She nodded, eyes filled with sadness. Looking down at her notes, she continued. "Lately, I've had the same long dream over and over. It starts when we first met. I started to zone out, as Lucy's class was ending soon. You know what? In the dream, everything's really clear. So real that sometimes I couldn't tell if it was a dream or reality. In the dream, the day came, but I didn't jump. Jason was rescued and taken to a psych ward. Then we returned home, the house you bought me. Later on, you gave me the wedding I always wanted, and we had 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl. We grew old, rocked side by side, holding hands till the end. You told me we were born to find each other and spend our lives together." I looked at her plainly. Her eyes said it was real. She truly believed she lived that life. I can't say if someone can experience 2 different lives because I've been reborn too. With this, I have reason to accept other possibilities. Dreams often oppose reality, so don't take them to heart. Finally, we said our goodbyes. My phone vibrated with a message from Lucy. "Babe, I'm done with class. Come get me." Okay. What Lisa said did make me feel something. I just feel like the life I'm living now is my real life. After that day, I didn't see Lisa again. But I had a dream about the day I jumped into the sea in that past life. I worried about Lisa, so I jumped in. When I was holding both of them, she stepped over Jason and me and got to the shore. A wave hit, and I drifted away from the shore, dying in the sea. The dream felt so real that I thought everything now was a dream, a fantasy I created. It felt like I was back there, sinking with fear and anger. The suffocating air was crushing me. It felt like my heart was being torn apart. I woke up shaking, drenched in cold sweat. I turned and saw Lucy sleeping next to me. Took me a while to realize it was just a dream. Thank goodness it was just a dream. A few days later, Lucy and I went to Sonia for vacation. Living again made me appreciate the people I have now, and life itself even more. When we got to the hotel, Lucy said she wanted to go for a swim at the beach. We put on our swimwear and headed to the nearby sand. The moment she saw the sea, she excitedly ran in, shouting, "The ocean, here I come." The sea was calm, shimmering in the light, a beautiful scene. I rested my chin in my hand, watching Lucy having fun with the kids. No wonder my friends say I spoil her like a child. Looking at her now, it's true. I was so absorbed I didn't notice someone behind me, until a pair of hands covered my eyes. Guess who? It was my good buddy. We've lived together for 4 years, so I couldn't mistake that voice. I laughed. Childish. "Well, that's no fun," he pouted, ordering a drink and putting it on my tab. The waiter looked at me, and I nodded. "Didn't expect to see you here too. What's up? Vacationing in Sonia as well?" "I'm not like you, hitting the jackpot both in love and career. I'm just an overworked employee on a business trip." He smirked. "The way you look at your lady, you might as well glue your eyes to her. Stop teasing." "Oh, feeling shy now?" I raised my drink and clinked it with his. "Cheers. Let's drop this topic." He actually changed the subject and gossiped about our college mates. "Remember Lisa? She was our class rep in college. I heard from her friend that she had a boyfriend with depression who committed suicide recently. She became a nun, saying she couldn't forgive herself for something she did. Life's unpredictable. I used to think she'd be the most successful in our class, but now look. He shook his head in pity and took another sip of his drink. Noticing my silence, he asked, "Peter, you listening?" I clinked my glass with his, giving him a slight smile. "Lisa? Can't really remember her." He joked, "Seems you've got a selective memory." I had wondered about Lisa's fate in this life, but I'd been too busy moving forward to dwell on it. When I realized my time was focused on those I love, I found I had no energy for other things. I'm well aware of the shadow that incident left on me, but I trust time will provide answers. A loving partner can heal all my past wounds, and I vow to give my all and stay devoted. Night fell. Lucy and I had just finished dinner and were enjoying the cool breeze on the second-floor balcony. The night air was a bit chilly, so I held Lucy close. Watching kids play by the beach, she asked, "Honey, what do you think we'll be like when we're old?" I kissed her forehead. "We'll be lounging on chairs, sunbathing, and chatting. I'll be next to you, you'll be next to me." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with hope, and I too hoped for the same. Time may leave its mark on our faces, but it won't take away our love and companionship. "Sweetheart, do you want to have a child?" Lucy blushed fiercely. I picked her up in a bridal carry. "It's late. Let's get some sleep. I've never really envisioned the future, but because of you, life doesn't seem so tough."